Hello again, as you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy, and today's class is Introduction to Security with Group Policy Objects and Organizational Units in Windows Server 2012. So we are finally getting into the cool stuff that we can do with Windows Server 2012. We played around with the dumb stuff before, we've installed the operating system, we've created Active Directory, we've done DNS, we've done DHCP, and woo! And up until this point, a lot of you guys are probably sitting there going, dude, why is this cool? Why are people spending so much money on Microsoft systems for this, for sharing files and maybe like being able to log into a network? That's not very cool. Well, as I've said, the reason that enterprises spend so much money on Microsoft products is because of Active Directory. So Active Directory is the single sign-on that allows you to go sit down at your computer, and if your computer is a member of the domain, you can log in and you immediately get access to your Exchange, your Outlook email, you get access to your shared folders, you get access to all kinds of cool stuff. Well, part of the Active Directory that makes this so cool is something called Group Policy Objects and Organizational Units. So before, in the previous class, I showed you permissions. So permissions are where you can share and give access or deny access to network resources, files, folders, printers, that type of thing. These are resources. So the important thing to remember is that permissions and security are two different things. Permissions are about resources on the network and what you can do with those resources. Security is about what you can do with the actual systems, what will happen with the actual systems. The great thing with group policy objects is you can automatically set things to happen for end users, either for their benefit or to restrict access. So today I'm going to use a group policy object just to show you how you can very quickly restrict access to Task Manager for a group of users. So basically what you have is you have organizational units. So you will hear about organizational units a lot when you're dealing with the Microsoft ecosystem because they're very important. So organizational units are where you can put users and computers to make it easier to administer them. So basically you put users and computers into OUs, organizational units, to make it easier to administer them. Then what you can do is you can assign GPOs or group policy objects to those organizational units to say what the members of the organizational unit can or cannot do. So can members of the organizational unit access their control panel, access the task manager? When they log into their systems, will they automatically connect to network shares? Will scripts automatically run? Will executable packages automatically run? That's what group policy objects do. They state the security, what the user can do with the system that they're interacting with, and what will happen like automatically for them. So when you're talking about permissions, that's about documents, that's about video files, it's about folders, that's about printers, that type of thing. When we're talking about GPOs or group policy objects, we're talking about the actual interaction with the system. Now why this is so great is because you can go in and you can lock down specific components so that end users cannot use those components. So back when I worked in the enterprise world, one of the offices I got shipped off to do a little bit of work at was our call center. So I worked for a major corporation that had call centers, and it was very interesting to go in there because when you sat down at one of the call center computers, when one of the call center employees was logged in, that call center employee did not have access to the control panel, did not have access to Task Manager, did not have access to any of the drives. All that call manager employee could do was access the one or two applications that they needed in order to do their call center work. So the idea here is that if you have users that you know exactly what they need to do, you can lock down all the functionality they don't need so they don't do anything stupid. Again, I know a lot of you guys think I'm kind of like brash and I'm blunt and I'm kind of mean when I talk about employees. Well, I'll be honest, I am a little mean when I talk about employees because I've had employees. I've had to actually pay employees out of my own pocketbook. Now you guys, as new geeks, as new technicians, when you are thinking about security problems for your company, you're thinking about things like hackers. You're thinking about the Chinese, you're thinking about the Indians, you're thinking about some 16-year-old sitting in his bedroom up in Michigan, all trying to hack your systems and bring down your enterprise network. That is the enemy that you guys are thinking about as newbies. Let me tell you, the enemy that I think about as an old timer, somebody that's been doing this since 1996, the person that I am scared most of, is the administrative assistant sitting down at their computer who purchased an MCSE for Dummies books and now wants to impress me with their skills so that maybe I will hire them and take them up into the geek world of IT. Well, here's the problem. If that administrative assistant, if that secretary has complete access to their computer, you haven't restricted it at all, they can sit there. And we're not saying that they're trying to be malicious. They're trying to be nice. They're trying to be helpful. They're trying to impress you. The problem is they don't know what the hell they're doing, and hopefully they're only going to kill their system, and they may cause a lot of damage to the rest of the network. Well, what you can do with these group policy objects is you can lock down their system so that they can only do what they need to do, and they can't go out and do all kinds of willy-nilly nasty stuff. Again, having done this for a long time now, I can tell you the main reason that help desk people have jobs in enterprises, that desktop support people have jobs in enterprises, is because 90% of the time it is the end user doing something catastrophically dumb to their own systems that causes the problems. 10% of the time, the power supply fails. 10% of the time, a driver gets corrupted. 10% of the time, a Windows update comes down and crashes everything. 10% of the time, it is legitimately the computer mucks up and does something dumb. 90% of the time, you have end users installing screensavers that they're not supposed to install. They're installing Napster or Kazaa or whatever the latest thing is, and they end up crashing their system. So with these group policy objects, what we can do is we can secure that system. We can say, no, you are not allowed to install crap on your computer. You're not allowed to get to the control panel. You're not allowed to get to the CD drive. You're not allowed to use the USB drives. No, 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 no. Do your job and stop mucking with my computer. So that's the important thing with these group policy objects. It allows you to lock down that computer. Now, we showed you groups before. So when we're dealing with permissions, we put users into groups and then we assigned permissions to those groups. Basically, that's the same thing that we're going to do today with users, only we're going to put users into organizational units and then assign GPO, group policy objects, to those organizational units. Again, we always want to be trying to group users into larger groups and then assigning permissions or security to those larger groups because it's easier that way. So you don't want to be assigning permissions or security to individual users. You want to be assigning them to either groups or, today with security, group policy objects. So I've got my computer set up. So we've been using the same server. So this is the same server I've been using for this entire track now. So I have the Windows Server 2012 already set up. It has the etcg.com domain already configured. Basically, this is the exact same setup that I've had before. So if you've been following along, building your lab with me, there's nothing new here. I have the Windows Server 2012, and I have a Windows 8 client that's connected, and then I have User 2, and User 2 is who we're going to be playing with today. So with that, you guys always want to get to the real stuff, so let's go over and actually get to the computer, because I know that's what you guys want to do. So we are sitting here, and we are sitting here at my Windows Server 2012. So what we are going to do now is we want to open up Server Manager. So Server Manager is that main dashboard where we're going to be dealing with a lot of things. And then from here, what we want to do is we want to go to Tools. So tools are where we get all the administrative tools that we're going to need for the administration of this server. So today what we're going to be using is we're going to be using Active Directory users and computers. So we're going to open that up, and then we're going to go back to Server Manager, and we're going to go to Tools, and then we're going to go to Group Policy Management. So both of these management consoles will be here in the Tools section, and you just want to open them up. And then we can minimize server. So basically we have the Group Policy Management, and we have the Active Directory users and computers. So when we go to Group Policy Management, what we're going to do is we're going to drill down, and as we can see, forest, etcg.com. Then we can see domains. We're going to click on that little left-hand thing there, and then we're going to come here to etcg.com. So this is what we're going to be dealing with right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to highlight etcg.com. From here, now what we can do is we can right-click on etcg.com or whatever your domain is, and we can do New Organizational Unit. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new organizational unit. So I'm going to call this Test OU. So this is going to be Test Organizational Unit, and then I'm going to click OK. And now we can see here that we have this Test Organizational Unit. So at this point, that's all I want you to do. So that's all it took to create an organizational unit. Woohoo! Yay, exciting. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to go down and we want to highlight this group policy objects. So this is where we are going to create the group policy objects, these group policies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this group policy object, and then I'm going to click New. From here, I'm just going to give this group policy object a name. So test GPO for class. So you can call this basically whatever you want, and click OK. And now we have created a group policy object. So test GPO for class. Now right now, nothing has really happened. We've just simply created this test GPO, we've created the organizational unit, and if we walked away, as far as the network would be concerned, it wouldn't matter. From here, what we want to do is we want to go in and actually set the security permissions for the organizational unit. So what I'll do is I'll right-click the organizational unit I want to play with, and then I want to click Edit. So this is where I can go in and I can start editing things. So we're not going to worry about computer configuration today. We are going to worry about the user configuration. We can open these little things up, and we can see that there are a whole lot of settings in here. So it's things like, look, you can have control panel, you can have folder options, you can have power options, you can have printer options, you can have devices. Well, we are going to go, here, let me maximize this. We want to go to Windows Settings. We want to open up like the software settings, and we can see that there's all these different security settings and all that in here. What I want to actually do right now, though, is we'll go to Administrative. And what I want you to see is just how many different settings are in here. So like add or remove programs, hide, change, or remove programs page, hide, add new programs page, blah, 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 blah. There's all of these different settings you can play with in here. Printers, programs, regional language settings. So one of the things to really think about with these group policy objects is you can get so refined with creating security using group policy objects that people are professionals basically just in group policy. So especially in huge enterprise environments, there are people whose full-time job, or most of their full-time job, is sitting down and perfecting group policies to make it Perfect for every single user, every single office in an enterprise environment. So when you're looking at these are all of the different settings that you can play with in group policy. You know, hide the select language group options. What I want to do right now is, so we're in the administrative templates. We opened that up. We're going to go down to all settings. So this is going to show us the all settings in the administrative templates. And here, this is where it's going to show us all of the different security settings that we can do. ActiveX control, add log off to the start menu, all processes, allow. Look at all of these different, and they're little, very specific things that you can change. So what I'm going to do, just for our little class today, just to make this not so complicated, is I want to go and remove Task Manager. So see, here's a setting that allows you to remove the Task Manager. So there's all these different settings, and you can look at the state and you can see it's not configured. So if I double click on this, so what this says is remove Task Manager. So if I enable this, then it will actually set it to removing the Task Manager. Again, one of the important things to remember about when you're dealing with the Microsoft world is read what it says. If you enable something that says remove Task Manager, that means the Task Manager will be removed. If you disable it, it means it won't be removed. So that's just one of those things. So basically, remove Task Manager, what we're going to do is we're going to enable it, and we are going to click OK. So now that has been set for this particular group policy object, so the test GPO for class. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of this. So simply by setting that to enabled and setting it to OK, now anybody who's affected by this group policy object will not be able to get to their task manager. Now, so we've created the group policy object. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to link the organizational unit to that group policy object. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight test OU, the test organizational unit, and then we're going to do select an existing GPO. So we're going to select that, and then we're going to go and we are going to select the test GPO for class. So if we create the group policy object, then we link it to the organizational unit. And now we're going to click OK. So the test GPO is now linked to the test organizational unit. Now this still isn't going to do anything, right? Because no users have been assigned to the test organizational unit. So you create the GPO, you assign that to, you link it to the organizational unit, and then you are going to be putting users into that organizational unit. Well, what I want to do right now is I want to go over to the Windows computer that we're going to be dealing with, and I just want to show you how it works now. So we're logged in as user 2. I go to desktop, I right click, and as you can see, I can get to Task Manager right now. So user 2 can in fact get to Task Manager. I have just proved that to you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the server. So we've now done everything we need to do in this group policy management. So we're going to minimize this right now. Close that out. Now we are going to be in Active Directory users and computers. So you should be pretty used to this particular management console right now. And from here, what we're going to see is if we do the refresh, we now see that test OU shows up in this management pane. So once you create that organizational unit and you come back to Active Directory users and computers, make sure to do a refresh so it actually shows up here. So this is the organizational unit. And as you can see from the right hand side here, nobody is in the organizational unit now yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to users, and we are going to go down and we are going to highlight user 2. So poor little user 2. User 2 is the one that I just keep smacking down. I don't like user 2. User 2 gave me the stink eye the first day he got hired. I'm just not sure about him. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock him down now because we don't want him to use Task Manager and do something nasty to the network possibly. So what we're going to do in order to assign user 2 to the test organizational unit is we highlight user 2, we right-click user 2, and then we go up and we select move. So we are going to move the user 2 from users into that test organizational unit. So all you do is you go here, you highlight test OU, and you click OK. So now you will see that user 2 disappeared from here, and now user 2 is in this test organizational unit. So the group policy object that has been assigned to the test organizational unit is now going to affect everybody in the test organizational unit, which happens to be user 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Windows 8 computer. Well, if I go back to my Windows 8 computer and I'm logged in as user 2, you're going to notice that I still have Task Manager. This is very important to remember, and I know a lot of you newbies are going to completely forget this. Whenever you change any permissions or security, you have to make sure that the user logs out and then logs back in for those new settings to be applied. So I log out, now I log back in, now I go to desktop, and you will see, look at that. Task Manager is now grayed out. There's nothing I can do. I cannot get into Task Manager. So again, this is one simple little configuration that I can do. If I wanted to sit here for a couple hours and really play with this group policy, I could do all kinds of fancy stuff. So that's what there is to these organizational units and to group policy objects. Again, I mean, think about your end users. Think about the nightmares, the problems that they're causing you. Imagine if you could simply turn off their control panel. What if you could turn off the ability to get to their CD drive? What if you could change all of these configurations? You could automatically map drives. You could automatically have, again, applications or scripts run when they log into their computer. That's what these group policy objects allow you to do. And the organizational units are basically like a container so that you can put users into the organizational units, and then you can assign group policies to the organizational units, and all the users that are inside there have the same group policies. Again, so if you have 1,000 employees at a call center, you can put all those 1,000 employees into one organizational unit, create a group policy for that organizational unit, and now all 1,000 employees have the same group policy. Again, I know you guys are new. I know when you guys think about networks, you guys are thinking about like 10 people or 20 people in a network. What makes this stuff powerful is imagine when you have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people in a network, and you can make one simple configuration change and that affects all of them. That's what makes this stuff so powerful. So we're probably going to have like another class or two on group policy objects. We're definitely going to be talking more about organizational units. This was just the introduction to this so that you guys can start wrapping your heads around this. Again, this is a very complicated skill set at the end of the day, and you can do a lot of cool things. You can lock down computers, you can lock down users, you can lock down sites, you can do all kinds of fancy stuff. So now that you've seen how to do this, the main thing you need to do now is go play with this. Just like I was talking yesterday about permissions, and that you just need to sit down and play with it in order to understand what's going on. Group policies is like permissions times 50. There's just so many configurations and so many things that you can do. Really, the best way to get good at group policies is just sitting down in a lab environment and mucking around with it. If you want to try to figure out what you can or can't do with group policies, frankly, just go to your computer, go to Google, and say, disable Task Manager with group policy. Disable Control Panel with group policy. Map network drive with group policy. Basically, just do a Google search and see if anything shows up. If something shows up, they will probably give you a step-by-step instruction on how to do it, and now you know how to do it. If nothing shows up, you probably can't do it. Again, as I keep talking about with this series, make sure you go out and you buy the professional level, the training books for all these servers for Windows Server 2012, because this will be a lifesaver. Again, I am Eli the Computer Guy, and you will notice I've got two very big books beside me, plus before I turned the screen off, I had Google. This stuff can get really complicated, and having these little $50, couple $100 worth of books sitting beside you can make it a lot easier to figure out what's going on. Again, if you're going to go out, you're going to get your MCSE in Windows Server 2012. If you paid a training company, you'd be paying them somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000 to learn all this stuff. So you know, seriously, 100 or 200 bucks on books. It isn't a bad deal. So that was a class, Introduction to Security with Group Policy Objects and Organizational Units in Windows Server 2012. Again, this is the introduction class. There's a lot more really cool things you can do with this. So if I've sparked your interest in group policy objects, please go out, learn more about them, because you can just do lots and lots of fantastic things with GPOs, and it's just an absolutely wonderful thing. And this is one of those little skill sets where if you are in a small company, or if you are the network administrator for a small organization, most likely you are not using any of these GPOs at all. So if you go in and you start using group policy objects, these are the types of things that your bosses will notice and will be very impressed with, and might give you a raise, or at least give you a nice little pat on the head. I mean, if you're not in a really big enterprise environment already, you're in a small environment, 20 computers, 100 computers, there's a good chance you're not using GPOs and these organizational units. So if you're the administrator and you go in and you start using these, again, this is the type of thing that end users and the bosses, the C-level executives, will notice immediately, and you can use them, again, to lower the overall support calls and stuff that you get to your, if some people are calling you for help all the time. Again, if you prevent them from installing stupid little screensavers that they shouldn't be installing anyway, that will make your job a lot easier. So as you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy. This was another class in the Windows Server 2012 track. As always, I enjoyed teaching this, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.